seconds it was all over. You can see those pictures. All over for 242 passengers on AI171, barring one miracle survivor, as the plane crashed into a medical college located in its flight path just beyond the perimeter of the Ahmedabad airport, viewers. One of the biggest tragedies in the country. The plane lost lift catastrophically. Its landing gear hadn't even been retracted, and you can see that, viewers. It was laden with fuel as it was preparing for a long haul to London Gatwick. It was a firebomb, virtually, waiting to go off. It was just a 13-year-old aircraft, so ordinarily it shouldn't have suffered the catastrophic failures it has. The only silver lining, as I told you, was the news of a survivor emerging from the wreckage. Literally a walking miracle. There you can see him. The survivor was a man, or is a man called Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, a British national who was returning to London. He was seated on 11A. He recounted that he was surrounded by fire and smoke and can't believe he is alive. Judging by the ball of flames, even we can't believe that someone survived this inferno. You can see those pictures. I want to go back to those pictures. There are two visuals of that crash. One, of course, is this entire sequence from takeoff to crash, which makes the heart sink and the stomach churn. And there is another one, caught from a distance, from a different angle. There it is, viewers. Mid-flight, and the plane comes down. Now, Vishwanath Ramesh, as I told you, is lucky to be alive. He's lucky to be alive. And, viewers, I have to say that if it's a silver lining, news of a survivor emerging from the wreckage, then I have to say, viewers, that the others shouldn't actually have died. Let me tell you, this tragedy could have been averted. Red flags have been raised, not once, but repeatedly. And in my hand, viewers, are the instances. The DGCA that comes under the central government has flagged numerous issues with Air India through show cause notices, but never got adequately satisfactory responses. That is what the DGCA has said on numerous occasions. If this is the case, why did the DGCA give such a long rope to Air India? These are questions the DGCA must answer. The Tata Group, the DGCA needs to come out and explain. At one point, for example, the DGCA said and flagged, quote, instances of unauthorized entry into the aircraft cockpit have been reported to the DGCA in the recent past, wherein persons having no authority or purpose were permitted entry into cockpit, unquote. This is a serious breach. But more than this, there were show cause notices for risky flight safety. Viewers, there are many instances. And these instances begin from June 2022, when Tata took over Air India. Now, viewers, the Tata Group came with a halo. It emphasized the fact that Tata was the one that was taking over Air India. Why? Because there's a certain brand resonance. There's a certain trust factor associated with the Tata brand. Viewers, did the Tatas squander that trust? Did they barter it for profitability? I don't know. I can only tell you the instances when it appears that it has been quite lax on the issue of safety. On January 2025, it was fined 30 lakhs for allowing a pilot to fly without completing mandatory takeoffs and landings. How could you do that, viewers? The Tata brand stands for something. How could they cut a corner such as this? The DGCA once said, quote, instances of unauthorized entry into aircraft cockpit have been reported to DGCA in the recent past, wherein persons having no authority or purpose were permitted entry into the cockpit. Air India pilots raise alarms over extended duty hours, with unions, ICPA and IPG alleging safety compromises and regulatory violations. All of this has happened. They seek immediate action to halt the coercion for extended flight duty time limitations, FTTL that is, and uphold aviation safety standards. The point is that to make Air India profitable, we're being told corners were being cut regularly. Maintenance crews were cut back. I'm not saying that these issues are directly linked to what happened tonight or earlier today, but I'm saying that there were problems in the manner in which Air India has been running its business, potentially taking its duties casually. And that's the problem. Trust is of utmost importance in this business. Did the Tata Group barter that for profitability? That's the question I'm going to be repeatedly asking. And viewers, if this was the track record, if the DGCA itself was not satisfied as it maintains on its own, and let me read out something to you, viewers, from another part of this report that I have. It said, in May 2024, the DGCA issued a show cause notice after 2 long-haul flights left passengers in stifling cabins without proper air conditioning. The notice stated the airline was time and again failing to take due care of its passengers, unquote. It is just a mentality. And the DGCA, if it found that the airline was so constantly in breach of its own standards, why didn't it do something about it? There's also something else. A whistleblower had urged the maker of the Air India Dreamliner plane, Boeing, to ground the fleet. Boeing engineer Salehpur urged maker to ground every 787 Dreamliner, flagging risk of premature failure. Salehpur claimed manufacturing giant took shortcuts to reduce production bottlenecks while making the 787. He also came out with a complaint that read, gaps in separately manufactured fuselage sections faulty, reduces durability, raises the risk of a catastrophic failure. I'm not saying that happened earlier today, but between 21 and 2023, the Federal Aviation Administration of America and Boeing paused deliveries of the new Dreamliners to investigate the issue. Boeing later stated it had updated its manufacturing process and deliveries eventually resumed. Did Air India do its due diligence with Boeing? How did it satisfy itself that Boeing has taken care of the problem? What was the nature of this due diligence? Because in just this year, there have been 6 incidents involving the 787. This is the 6th aircraft incident in 2025 involving a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Washington-bound Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner made an emergency landing in Lagos after declaring a mid-air emergency. September 2024, an Air India Boeing 787-800 passenger plane en route from Delhi to Birmingham made a precautionary landing in Moscow due to technical issues. There was another problem between an Air India plane, Dreamliner, Delhi to SF, made a precautionary landing in Siberia. Why? Because the crew detected a potential issue in the cargo hold. May 2024, Boeing warned airlines flying its 787 Dreamliner model to inspect certain switches in the cockpit after a New Zealand-bound LATAM plane dropped violently mid-flight, injuring several passengers. You might even remember that incident. There's also the Turkish angle, viewers. Air India had signed an agreement with Turkish Technic for the maintenance of its wide-body aircraft. After Operation Sindoor, this was reviewed, or the contract is under review. I don't know the exact status. I'm not saying at all, viewers, that it did this so deliberately. But viewers, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered, specifically aimed at arriving at a conclusion. Could this have been prevented with greater care from both the DGCA and Tata? Today, the Tata Group has expressed regret. But is it nearly enough, viewers? Noel Tata, chairman of Tata Trust, said he's deeply saddened by the tragic accident involving Air India Flight 171. Heart-wrenching incident has brought immense grief to countless families. Our thoughts are with all those who have lost their loved ones, and our heartfelt condolences to bereaved families and stand in solidarity with them during this unimaginable time, unquote. What won't go unnoticed is that the crash has taken place within days of Boeing settling a case with US Department of Justice. Two major crashes that were due to faults on Boeing new 737 MAX model. Nothing to do with this aircraft, viewers. In Indonesia and Ethiopia in 2018 and 2019, those are the two cases. Last month, Boeing paid off $1.1 billion in a deal with the US Department of Justice to avoid prosecution over the two crashes. Lawyers for some of the victim families call the payoff deal morally repugnant. Now, viewers, some questions need to be asked. We can't simply put this down to misfortune. We can't simply put this down to an awful constellation of consequences. No, viewers. We still don't have the report, but far too many lives have been lost on the ground and in the aircraft. And I want to open this up. We have with us M.R. Sivaraman, former DGCA, KVG Rao, former cabin crew, Air India, Captain Amit Singh, founder of Safety Matters Foundation, Devesh Agarwal, aviation expert, Parvez Damania. All of these people are very well known. Suhail Seth will also be there with us in just a few moments. But I want to first begin asking some very straightforward questions. And I want to begin with former DGCA, KVG Rao, former cabin crew, Air India also. Now, Captain Amit Singh, are you there with us? Okay, why is he not there? Let's get him on because it's important. Mr. Sivaraman, former DGCA, what do you make of the incident today? What do you make of it?
It is very difficult to come to any conclusion right now or even make a guess. Normally, when an aircraft is cleared for takeoff, it is cleared with respect to all its parameters, without which no pilot of the experience of this gentleman who took command of the aircraft would have accepted to fly the aircraft. And moreover, this aircraft has been flying for the past 11 to 12 years. And all its defects, deficiencies, everything might have been noted, and they would be on record for the DGCA to investigate them properly. Of course, now it's too late to take any remedial action in respect to the aircraft, but of course, it would be visible in regard to the action taken if there had been any deficiency reported by the pilot. In this particular case, the aircraft took off properly. That means the aircraft had developed full thrust on both its engines. But as it reached a height of 600 feet above the airport level, suddenly it had lost lift and the aircraft simply fell. One can see it very clearly that it was floating and it just fell. That means it lost all its lift, which could happen only on, as far as I know, only in two cases. One, both the engines have failed, or the entire lift mechanism of the aircraft, the stabilizer, the ailerons, everything failed. Now that cannot happen unless there has been a catastrophic negligence in regard
catastrophical,
to
you say, catastrophic negligence, but it could have been a catastrophic failure, and this has been flagged by a former Boeing engineer, Mr. Salepur. You know this case. We all know this case. It was flagged last year.
Yeah, I know.
He warned. He said, ground these flights, ground these planes. Yet we were told by Boeing that everything has been sorted out.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, sir, but there is somebody who needs to put their hands up and tell us on what basis did they believe that Boeing had rectified the issue. We don't know. Maybe this is exactly the foreboding this gentleman had.
That's correct.
Yes. Lives have been lost.
What I'm trying to
we
say
owe them an explanation.
That the Boeing aircraft is such a giant corporation having influence all over the world, including the governments to which they supply aircraft or to the countries which they supply aircraft, and they get away with paying fines. In fact, they should have been prosecuted, and they were not prosecuted. The Boeing chief was not prosecuted. They got away with fines.
Yeah, they paid blood money to the Department of Justice, the US Department of Justice. They paid $1.1 billion. They paid blood money. I mean, hundreds of people died in those crashes in 2018 and 2019 when a 737 MAX model in Indonesia and Ethiopia crashed, just because they were lives that perhaps in the in the rarefied environs were not European lives or US lives or whatever it is, it didn't matter. You could just pay money, insulate yourself from the blowback, from the law.
And get away with it.
Shocking.
See, in my time when I was DGCA, one Boeing 747 aircraft lost one engine, a whole engine fell near Palam airport and the aircraft crash landed and it was burning when I reached the aircraft at that particular point of time. When we reported this matter, we found, due to our investigations, we found the bolt which held the engines, they were very weak. Ultimately, the Boeing rectified it and they got away with it. These are giant companies. What can we do? At the most, we can say, okay, we will not buy any more Boeing aircraft. That is one decision the country can take. The government can take, the airlines can take. Secondly, the point that you have mentioned in your introduction, that several notices were given to the Tata Airlines and they are not compliant with the DGCA's instructions. That's a very sorry state of affairs. I am afraid if I had been DGCA, I would have given them notice so that I would withdraw their license to fly. That should have been the step taken by the DGCA. If so many of their notices had not been complied with the company,
there's a problem here. Parvez Damania, there is a problem here. You know, you've been part of the airline industry for a very long time. I am shocked, Parvez Damania. You've been you've been executive director of Kingfisher Airlines. I'm shocked that the DGCA has complained on numerous occasions, fined Air India. I'm talking about a culture here of laxity.
DGCA is a very firm body. They're very strict. I know Shivaraman sir very well. And they would take action against any airline that would not fall in line. I am surprised that they've given so much leverage to Air India and Tata, which is quite surprising to me. And this is a very hard lesson, a very bitter pill to swallow. These people have died, so many lives have been lost, and no amount of money can compensate the situation. As far as Boeing you are talking, now the problem for the world is there are only two manufacturers left, Boeing and Airbus. So you have to choose between the two. Today, any airline in the world cannot ignore Boeing completely. There has to be some amount of competition, there's some amount of strategy. So airlines are forced to buy Boeing or Airbus. So a lot of people end up buying Boeing, and that is the reality of the situation there is. Now, I heard what you said, but I am very shocked to understand that the Tata Group, with such high moral standards, are behaving in this manner. This cannot be excused, and this is a very, very, very expensive wake-up call.
So, in the interest of balance, let's not jump to conclusions. Let me pull myself back, viewers, because it's easy today to go on a witch hunt without the facts, without the absolute facts. We only have conjectures. We only have past precedent. Has that resulted in the incident that we are seeing today? One survivor miraculously has escaped this absolute ball of fire.
I'm switching over to the other line.
Okay, just 1 second. Stay on with me. I just want to bring in Mr. Devesh Agarwal. He's an aviation expert also. Mr. Agarwal, look, what could have resulted in what we just remove these pictures of Mr. Shah and put this thing of the pictures of the plane. Yes, let's have a look at that. That's important, viewers. This is very, very important. What we're seeing is a takeoff, and within 30 seconds or so, the plane is down. Mr. Agarwal, what do you make of this? What could have happened? What could have happened to this plane? I think you're on mute, sir. Yeah, please unmute yourself. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. I can't still hear you. You're on mute. I don't know what happened between the afternoon and today, because we were hearing you very clearly and you made so much sense. He's still on mute. I don't know. Okay, let's try to come back to you. But let me bring in Wing Commander Sudhakaran. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, you've been a pilot. What do you make of this? What do you think has happened? Some people are saying that the flaps of the airliner weren't opened to a particular degree, etc., etc. Everyone's become an expert. What do you think is happening?
To begin with, I'm not a pilot. My mistake, sir. I'm a nautical engineer. So I'm qualified on avionics, not a pilot. But having said that, having served in the Air Force and having been around the aircrafts and seen enough accidents. See, any accident, the primary cause is generally assessed through what is called as the Swiss cheese model. And that has been brought out by many experts. It's not one reason which leads to an aircraft accident. It never happens. It is a layer of cheese which gets aligned, and all these holes, when it gets aligned, that's when that perfect accident happens. And unfortunately, today was one of the day, and my heart goes out to people who lost their lives. I stand with the families today. But if you try and assess, there is one thing that is very clear here. There is something that is catastrophically failed.
Okay, something catastrophically wrong. Okay, let me bring in now Devesh Agarwal, if I can hear him. Devesh Agarwal, what do you make of this?
Okay, Rahul, if you see the video with the audio on, you can hear engine sounds. So, the thoughts of people saying that there's a sudden loss of power. Actually, there seems to be a sudden loss of lift. Now, that could happen for a variety of reasons, including an engine failing. But the thing is, these GE engines, the Gen X engines, are from a family of GE engines that are over 30 years old, and they have got a solid reputation. In fact, you were mentioning the flight which was from Delhi to San Francisco, which had to divert to Russia. It was a 777, and all 777s are powered by GE 90 engines. And these are the engines that have proven so reliable that earlier, when aircraft used to fly, they had to be within 60 minutes of an airport for diversion. Today, that time frame has shifted to 6 hours, which permits these flights of Air India over deep parts of Russia where there is no airport nearby, purely based on the reliability of that engine. Now, and just a small piece of information, any aircraft has to certify, it has to prove that it can take off at its maximum takeoff weight, full of fuel, full of equivalent of passengers, the maximum specified takeoff weight of the aircraft as specified by the manufacturer. It has to prove that it can take off with one engine failed. If you go to YouTube and just see, Airbus has to do it, Boeing has to do it, Embraer has to do it, Comac has to do it. We talk about Russia, MC-21. There are now 5 different manufacturers. All of them have to prove that their aircraft can fly with one engine, or rather take off with full weight with one engine. So here, it exactly as one of our panelists from the Air Force saying, it's a Swiss cheese model. No accident is a result of a single cause. It is always a series of slices of cheese where the holes line up, and mistake after mistake after mistake. Now, that mistake could be human, it could be weather, it could be technical, it could be mechanical. This particular
clearly,
aircraft,
what do you mean weather? Because it's a clear day, visibility is great, there are no surface winds.
No, that's the thing. You could have. I don't see that as much of a possibility, but you can see the aircraft is taking off at an angle. What is the crosswind element there? Was there a microburst, which is called wind shear? These are things that will come out, and which is why I urge people, please let us not speculate. Let us wait for some kind of preliminary report. I'm very, very sure that the accident investigators from India's AAIB, because they will be assisted by the US NTSB, by Boeing, by GE, by Air India, by AAI. There will be a big investigation team, and it will come out. So we just have to hold on for a little while, and let's avoid speculation, because honestly, I feel we do disservice.
No, but we're also looking at the pathology here. We have to look at the pathology. Look, yes, of course we have to wait. No one is foolish enough to think that the pilot would want to fly an aircraft that is compromised in any which way. No one is suggesting for a moment that Tata willingly has put passengers in jeopardy by flying this aircraft because it knew something but decided not to act upon it. I'm not getting there. I'm not talking about that kind of culpability, but I'm talking about a laxity, a lax approach towards passenger and air travel, passenger safety and air travel. And there has been enough of a history. And the DGCA, look, I don't know about the DGCA, but the little experience I've had covering news for a while now, I have noticed that the DGCA, some people here say they take a lot of action, etc., etc., but I've also seen when certain things have been permitted, which should not have been permitted. We've seen this in the past.
Rahul, if I may, Air India, at least see, the aircraft may not have been maintained internally, kept clean, things were breaking, things like that. I can understand that. But Air India engineering, the actual, you know, they have a very strong reputation.
Okay, look, I mean,
let me just 5 seconds, 5 seconds. They have a reputation of sending out airworthy aircraft. You see, Air India flights are not this thing. You talk about diversions and all. Hey, that happens so regularly.
Okay. Let me bring in KVG Rao. He's been a part of Air India before. Mr. Rao, tell me, Air India is above blame because their brand, their values are unimpeachable. That's the sense I'm getting on this panel. Would you agree with that?
Firstly, Rahul, my heart goes out to the people whose lives are lost. Having said that, Air India always had a very bad track record of flight safety. I have been flagging the flight safety violations since the year 2008. And there are innumerable, like I can tell you around lakhs of flights have flown illegally and contrary to rules. I'm not getting into that now. Air India got privatized under the Tatas. After the Tatas, also the culture didn't change in Air India. Profit took over the thing. I'll give you a simple example, Rahul. This is a DGCA report in July 2023. They conducted a surprise raid on the Air India and they found that the checklists were physically signed by an auditor from CMS department, which does not fall under the approval and inspection scope of DGCA. But till today, nothing has happened to that officer. She has got promotions. She has risen from GM to director and finds her way always into the flight safety department. The DGCA has been the most lackadaisical organization that I have seen from 2008. I have filed numerous writ petitions in the Bombay High Court and the Delhi High Court. Unfortunately, the courts, there are delay in the courts, it's happening. I have documented at least 1 lakh violations from 2018 to 2014. Now we come to know that in 2017, when we filed a writ petition before the Delhi High Court, that DGCA did not have the powers to make those rules also. So DGCA was actually fudging reports. And our worst sector was the India-Australia operations. Flights were operated despite a report given saying that if you operate in the manner that you are operating, the flight safety risk is 25 times the permissible limit. And it is their own report. It is not my report. But the DGCA has been sleeping over it.
Why do you think?
There is a quid pro quo. If you want me to be very honest with you, it's a quid pro quo. It's as simple as that. I have not won. Here I have DGCA saying that medical reports are forged.
Can you go through some of these documents, sir? Tell us a little bit about this. I'm completely shocked right now.
Provision of QR code on the test reports for medical examination. It is noticed by the medical DTO, DGCA, DSCA headquarters that of the reports submitted by license holders to undergo medical examination are being amended, not amended, EMEN. That means they have been forged to normal values and submitted. What action has been taken against those people? Nothing. The flight safety director gets away with blue murder. Here, this is another thing. DGCA report. Wrong crew on a flight, and they flew halfway to realize that the person on the left hand side was not competent to be on that aircraft in the first place.
Oh my God.
No action taken.
And which airline is this? Which airline is
Air India. I am only talking about Air India.
When, sir? When? What period? What time period?
23rd August 2024.
So this is after Tata's took over.
Yes, 23rd December 2023. Okay, July 2023. Rahul, I will not make a statement without having documents. I have approached the civil aviation minister n number of times. His ears have been filled by people who have committed these frauds.
Which civil aviation minister? You talking about Mr. Naidu, the Union Civil
The
Aviation
present
Minister?
one also, I just sent a mail to him, and the earlier ones also. In fact, for violations, I have also obtained court orders to file FIRs. They have taken it to the High Court, fraudulently obtained interim release. We are fighting it. I have been fighting this battle, Rahul, since 2008 on the flight safety violations. After the arrival of the 787s, all the rules were tweaked. Each and every rule on the India-Australia operations where Air India started their 787 flights were tweaked. Contrary to what Mr. Naseem Zaidi, who was then the DGCA, was very particular. That no, this is how you will operate these long-range flights which are over 14 hours of flight time. It is their own DGCA officers who have violated those rules. We have brought it to their notice, but nothing happens. Because like I said, there is political compulsions, there is maybe gratuities involved. And I make this statement with full responsibility, Rahul. I have seen it day in and day out. I have been a victim of exposing these corruptions.
So tell me something, sir. You said that you've approached the courts. You're not getting a hearing from the executive or from the DGCA or from the airlines, what have you, but you approached the courts. And what has the court done? The court in this country that is constantly, viewers, unveiling itself in activism. Now let's listen to what the courts have done in this country. Mr. Rao, tell us.
I filed 2 writ petitions in the year 2013 and 2014. Till 2019, neither did Air India nor did DGCA file a reply to those writ petitions. And 2019, the present Chief Justice of India, Justice Gawai, had to pass an order saying it is unfortunate that for 5 years you have not filed a reply on the violations that took place from 2013 to 2019.
My gosh.
I have filed criminal cases on these people because they have endangered lives. The court, and I'm sorry, the courts also have let me down badly. So
we're not surprised. I'm sorry, I'm not surprised.
I'm telling you, Rahul, these are all criminal cases filed by me in the criminal courts. I have at least 63 criminal cases.
So are you saying, so Mr. Rao, let's just cut to the brass tacks. Are you saying that this kind of an incident could have been averted had there been greater honest vigilance? Is that what you're saying?
No,
let me give you an example. For example, let me give you an example. On March 2025, DGCA show causes Air India 80 lakh fine for breaching pilot flight duty time limits. It's a very sensitive issue, viewers. Then, January 2024, 2 months prior, 30 lakh fine for inadequate Cat 3 pilot rostering during fog. So the person who was flying that plane did not have the adequate training, the skill set to fly in fog. Viewers, and that person would have been carrying anywhere between 150 to about 170 passengers. So you're risking knowingly the lives.
Lakhs of lives that have been endangered till today. And I have documents to prove it, Rahul. I don't speak without documents. I am before a court on affidavit.
No, I'm talking about DGCA action on Air India. So just a fine, 30 lakhs here, 20 lakhs there, is that the price of 180 lives?
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
What is 30 lakhs? The company is paying it.
Exactly.
It is the shareholders' money. It doesn't come from the pocket of the pilot. It doesn't burn a hole in his pocket.
I mean, there is a 30 lakh fine, sir. So DGC has taken action in January 2025. 30 lakh fine for allowing a pilot to fly without completing mandatory takeoffs and landings. I mean, this is double jeopardy.
Has he not endangered lives?
That's what I'm saying. And the cost is 30 lakhs.
Yes.
So where is the disincentive, viewers? Why aren't these people hauled before criminal courts, etc., etc.? Why is the DGCA not moving?
I am fighting against the wall. I mean, I stick out like a sore thumb because I'm a whistleblower. My family is being hurt. I mean, I know what I'm going through, what I'm doing.
So let me just hold on, sir. This is very, very. First of all, we salute you for your yeoman service. Unfortunately, viewers, look at this. One single man waging a fight against a system that is actually trying to discredit this person. And he's got all his documents, he's got all the reports, he's only highlighting what the DGCA itself has observed. I mean, how bizarre is this, viewers? That a 30 lakh fine, a 30 lakh fine, or an 80 lakh fine, or another 30 lakh fine for endangering, knowing fully well that your pilot is not up to the task. So endangering 150, 140, 130 lives. I don't know what kind of craft this was, whether this was just an Airbus 320 or whether it was a bigger craft, I don't know, the capacity. But anywhere between 130 lives upwards. And the price is 30 lakhs. Do the math, viewers. Do the math. Today, Air India has announced compensation of 1 crore for each of the passengers who lost their lives. 1 crore, viewers. I want to bring in Suhail Seth. Sir, just stay on with me because I want you to respond also to some of these responses that we're going to get. Suhail Seth, thank you very much for joining us. We have with us others on the panel who are extremely well versed in this there's Mr. Damania, who you must know. I want to begin by asking you, there's growing evidence to suggest that Air India hasn't taken its responsibilities very seriously. And therefore, can the Tatas just walk away from all of this thinking that they're blameless? Mr. Seth.
I don't think the Tatas are the kind of group that will walk away from any responsibility. Rahul, you were there when 2611 happened. Ratan Tata, R.K. Krishna Kumar at that point in time stood right outside the Taj. Mr. Tata attended every funeral. We gave help to everyone. The Tatas gave help to everyone. They offered help, both financial and emotional. I don't think the Tatas as a group is the kind that will walk away from anything. A. B. You've seen N. Chandrasekharan's statement. The statement very clearly says that we will get to the bottom of this. We will offer all the support, all the help to all the families that have been affected by this crash. Look, no one, and least of all a group as venerable as the Tatas, would want anything of this kind to happen. So, while everyone says, oh, the DGCA has flagged this, the DGCA has flagged that, then my question, Rahul, to you as an ordinary Indian citizen is, then why did the DGCA not take action? Everyone says, oh, but the DGCA wrote to the Tatas, DGCA wrote to this. Please remember that Tatas have more to lose should there be a problem, and as there has been of this magnitude reputationally, than the DGCA. A. B. This is a group that took on Air India when no one wanted to touch it, made changes. You had visible changes in both the consumer experience and the refurbed aircraft. So, someone needs to cut the Tatas some slack. It's very easy in our country to hold one person responsible and say, oh, the Tatas are at fault. The aviation business, and Rahul, I was on the global board of British Airways, on the global advisory board. I know a thing or two about how airlines are run. It's very easy to say, oh, but British Airways was at fault or Air India is at fault. The reality is the following. A, we have to wait for an inquiry. B, we have to get down with the people from Boeing, because this is a Boeing issue more than an Air India or a DGCA issue. Number 3, where did the Tatas go wrong? You had a pilot, the commander of the aircraft had more than 8,000 hours of flying. The first officer had more than 1,100 hours of flying. Do you think people would risk a non-maintained aircraft, and would they even fly it? Number 2, the pilots of Air India are rated amongst the finest by any aviation research that you can undertake in the world. So I'm saying that it is early days, it's early hours.
Okay. You're saying let the dust settle a little bit. Mr. Rao, how do you respond to this? The Air India under Tatas is very conscious of its brand image. It's not going to do things that is going to jeopardize the legacy of the Tatas. And we know that that legacy is quite a shining legacy. How do you respond to that?
Let me assure Mr. Suhail Seth, I am second generation Air Indian. My father was very close to Mr. G.R.D. Tata. And they broke no violation. Let me make that also very clear. So I know exactly where the Tatas are coming from. but it is a culture that has gone down now. I'm not blaming the Tatas. We can't say Mr. Ratan Tata or GRD Tata. The company is run by a bunch of corporate executives. They are only worried about their promotions, their bonuses, and other things. At no stage have I said that the Tatas are bad.
Okay.
Let me make that also very, very clear. I have had issues and I have taken up those issues. It is unfortunate that Tatas have brought in lawyers to kind of fight these illegalities that we are exposing.
No, no, Rahul.
That is the saddest
Yeah,
part.
1 second.
Rahul.
Let him finish. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No,
Go ahead.
like I said, I have the documents.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not.
So Mr.
You know,
Damania
not
wants to
going
respond to you.
Rahul,
Yes. Yeah.
Rahul,
Yeah.
see,
Yeah. Yeah.
any company will try and protect the reputation. If somebody files a case, Tatas are bound to bring in the lawyers. How are they supposed to not protect the reputation? See, I am 100% sure that Tatas would not cut any cost as far as the engineering standards are concerned. It's a cash-rich company. It's not a company that's going down or something, some company running tight for money.
No,
They
I'm
must
not
have
implying. No,
spent-
hang on. I'm not. Let's be very clear here. I'm talking
Why would
about
you tell
owners.
everyone to ruin their reputation?
No, that's true. But we also know that this is not a charity, right? You have to make profits. There are people who've come out from within
No,
Tata
I
Group,
understand that
within
Tata is
within
not that
within Indian
desperate that
Airlines.
they
Sorry.
will-
No, 1 second.
Tata
There are
is
people
not
who've come.
that desperate to make profit that
No, no,
they
just-
will take risks.
Okay, let's
I'm
not be
100%
so.
sure of that.
Okay, but then
Another thing, I'll tell you
hang on.
something.
The next question.
We are jumping the gun.
No, I'm not
Till
jumping the gun.
black box
I am
is
only
found, till
only
the
interested.
cockpit voice recorder is found. We are just guessing.
No, that's fine.
Only
But
when
I'm
the-
interested in, look, this may not have anything to do with any of these pathologies
Absolutely,
no, hang on,
absolutely,
that I'm referring to here. None of this backstory might have actually led to what has happened, and I respect that point of view, sir. I completely, Mr. Damania, respect that point of view. But if you are to prevent the larger rot from infecting other services on other days, we also have to, on a day such as this, look at that issue. And if there are issues, they need to be addressed. We have to minimize risk, don't we?
At every stage, safety comes first in aviation.
There we go.
Nobody's gonna
So
compromise on safety.
I am looking at a track
I know
record that
no
doesn't
engineer
inspire
is
much
gonna risk
confidence.
his
I
life.
don't know if this is about making money, saving, the extra rupee here or 10 rupees there to boost profitability. I don't know. I'm not going into all of that. But what I'm seeing is a kind of laxity. It's a kind of culture that I think Mr. Rao is referred to. He's talking about the corporatization of Air India under the Tatas. Then Mr. Suhail said, look, if the Tatas are so conscious about their image, why would they deploy, for example, pilots that aren't adequately trained to operate in low visibility conditions during fog? I mean, this was in 2023, December 2023, and they are fined in January 2024. Mr. Seth, can you hear me? Yeah.
It's a great point that you've raised. Now let's go step by step. Fog is an issue with two things. Number one, the airport equipment. And now you know that one runway from June 15 in Delhi is going to be shut because they're going to expand the runway from 610 to 900 meters. And they're going to install equipment which will allow for fog landings. Number two, why are you blaming only Air India or the Tatas? All airlines have suffered. There have been diversions where an Emirates flight trying to land has had to
Just
go
a
back
minute,
because the
Mr. Seth. I have to go straight across to Mr. Amit Shah. KVJ Rao, stay on with me. I'm just going to cut across.
आज दोपहर को एयर इंडिया की फ्लाइट संख्या AI171 दुर्घटनाग्रस्त हुई और कई पैसेंजर इसके अंदर हताहत होने की संभावनाएं हैं। इस घटना से पूरा देश क्षुब्ध है और पूरा देश एक साथ पूर्ण संवेदनाओं के साथ ये जो दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण हादसे में पैसेंजर हताहत हुए हैं, इनके परिजनों के साथ खड़ा है। सबसे पहले मैं भारत सरकार, गुजरात सरकार, भारत सरकार के प्रधानमंत्री जी और गुजरात सरकार की ओर से भी जो लोग हताहत हुए हैं, इनके परिजनों के प्रति गहरी संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं। 10 ही मिनटों में हादसे के भारत सरकार के पास सूचना पहुंची। तुरंत ही मैंने मुख्यमंत्री जी, यहाँ के गृह मंत्री, होम डिपार्टमेंट के कंट्रोल रूम, सिविल एविएशन डिपार्टमेंट, सिविल एविएशन मंत्री, सभी से संपर्क किया। प्रधानमंत्री जी का भी तुरंत ही फोन आ गया और भारत सरकार और गुजरात सरकार के सभी डिपार्टमेंट एक साथ होकर राहत और बचाव कार्य में लगे। इस विमान में कुल मिलाकर 230 यात्री देश के और विदेश के और 12 क्रू मेंबर सवार थे। इसमें से एक यात्री का बचने का अच्छा समाचार मिला है, मैं उनको मिलकर आया हूं। मृत्यु का आंकड़ा तो डीएनए परीक्षण और यात्रियों की पहचान के बाद ही अथॉरिटी अधिकृत रूप से घोषित करेगी, मगर जो यात्री बचा है उसको मैं मिलकर आया हूं। घटना के तुरंत बाद गुजरात सरकार ने बहुत त्वरा से डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट की सारी इकाइयों को अलर्ट करते हुए, चाहे हेल्थ डिपार्टमेंट हो, चाहे फायर ब्रिगेड हो, चाहे पुलिस विभाग हो, भारत सरकार की भी सीएपीएफ को संपर्क कर सभी ने एक साथ मिलकर राहत और बचाव का कार्य चालू किया। मगर 1.25 लाख लीटर ईंधन विमान के अंदर ही था और लगभग गर्मी, तापमान इतना ऊंचा हो गया कि किसी को बचाने की मौका ही नहीं मिला। अब मैं घटना स्थान पर भी जाकर आया हूं। सारे यात्रियों के मृतदेह को बाहर निकालने का काम लगभग समाप्त हो चुका है। जितने यात्रियों के परिजन यहां पहुंच चुके हैं, वो सबका डीएनए लेने की कार्यवाही भी 2-3 घंटों में समाप्त हो जाएगी। विदेश में जिनके परिजन हैं, उनको सूचना देने की कार्यवाही समाप्त हो चुकी है और जैसे ही पहुंचते हैं उनके भी डीएनए सैंपल लिए जाएंगे और मृतदेहों की पहचान के लिए जितने मृतदेह मिले हैं, इनके भी डीएनए सैंपल लेने की कार्यवाही समाप्त हो चुकी है। गुजरात में ही लगभग 1000 के आसपास डीएनए टेस्ट करने पड़ेंगे। ये सभी टेस्ट करने की क्षमता गुजरात में विकसित है, तो डीएनए टेस्टिंग के लिए कहीं गुजरात के बाहर जाने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। गुजरात की एफएसएल और नेशनल फॉरेंसिक साइंस यूनिवर्सिटी दोनों मिलकर कम से कम समय में डीएनए का परीक्षण पूरा करने के बाद परिवारजनों को अपना मृतदेह, परिजन का मृतदेह सौंपने का काम करेंगे। उनके रहने की सुविधा, उनकी सांत्वना की सुविधा, जिनको मेडिकल प्रॉब्लम ट्रॉमा के कारण हुए, इनकी मेडिकल की सुविधा, ये सारी व्यवस्था बहुत सुचारू रूप से हो चुकी है। अभी रिव्यू मीटिंग में सारी व्यवस्थाओं को हम सब मंत्रियों ने साथ में मिलकर देखा है। एविएशन डिपार्टमेंट ने अपनी जांच शुरू कर दी है और जांच तेजी से आगे बढ़े, इसके लिए भी एविएशन मंत्री जी ने सूचनाएं दी है। मैं फिर से एक बार राहत काम में जिन जिन एजेंसियों ने त्वरा के साथ बचाव और राहत का काम किया, वो सभी का धन्यवाद करना चाहता हूं। और फिर से एक बार जिन्होंने अपने परिजनों को गंवाया है, हताहत हुए हैं, वो सभी को मनपूर्वक संवेदनाएं व्यक्त करता हूं। मैं एक बार जरूर कहना चाहता हूं कि ये एक्सीडेंट है, एक्सीडेंट को कोई रोक नहीं सकता, परंतु 365 दिन 24 घंटा इस तरह की घटना के लिए प्रशासन का जो अलर्टनेस है, उसकी कसौटी उसी वक्त होती है जब ऐसी घटनाएं होती है। और आज गुजरात के डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट की तैयारियों का एक प्रकार से दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण तरीके से मगर कसौटी हुआ और बहुत त्वरा के साथ यहाँ पर काम किया गया, वो पूरे देश के मीडिया के सामने और परिजनों के सामने भी आया है। अंत में मैं फिर से एक बार सम्माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी की ओर से, भारत सरकार और गुजरात सरकार की ओर से सभी हताहत लोगों के परिजनों के प्रति गहरी संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं। धन्यवाद।
Mr. Amit Shah there speaking about the tragedy and the relief and the rescue efforts that were mounted. Mr. Rao, where do we go from here? I also want to bring in Mr. Devesh Agarwal right after that, because we have a survivor, a miracle survivor, and I want to understand how that can actually happen. How can, after this fireball, someone walk away? But Mr. Rao, what's your quick assessment of the way ahead from here, Mr. Rao? Can you hear me? Yes. Where do we go from here, Mr. Rao? Do we have him? I don't think we have him. KVJ Rao, I think we've lost him there. But this is the picture, viewers. Air India miracle survivor walking away from that crash site. Mr. Agarwal, what do you make of this? How is this even possible? Even Amit Shah said that this was a miracle. I mean, a plane carrying 1.25 lakh liters of ATF goes up. Yeah. And in, I think, 11A seat, we have a survivor.
God works in mysterious ways. I guess this gentleman's time had not come, and God has saved him. That's the only one word I can use for it. But since you're talking about this, Rahul, one point I'd like to this thing. I've seen some videos that are so graphic, and I would ask all your viewers also. We are talking about, those 75 students in the hostel, yes, and the passengers, of course, who have perished. But these are first responders and volunteers who have obviously seen carnage of humanity, which I'm sure they did not want to see, and I don't think they will ever forget. And I just would hope that the government would reach out and provide these first responders the kind of counseling they will definitely need post such a horrific thing.
Mr. Rao, very quickly coming out to you, where do we go from here? What do you think are the next steps? Who needs to principally answer, face the press, come out and give some basic answers?
Rahul, it's very simple. The DGCA needs to pull up its socks. They wanted to make the DGCA an autonomous body. It didn't happen. And we know why it was not allowed to happen. The fact remains is till we clean up the whole system, sir, it is going to be a problem. And it is getting murkier by the day. Like Mr. Seth was saying, why aren't we discussing other airlines? Let me tell you, sir, as on today, every aircraft is in violation of the minimum crew limitations. DGCA themselves have written a letter to me. But the fact remains is, where all can I go and what all can one man do? If the institution doesn't want to change, how can we get in? I can only
take the system, Mr. Damania, that is on test tonight. It is the system, Mr. Rao says.
It is, first of all, we have to admit one thing for sure. The aviation industry in India is growing very, very, very fast. It is growing, the fastest growing aviation industry in the world. We've already become third largest industry. And I am 100% sure the government is trying to buckle up and shape up and increase the capacity of the Director General of Aviation. But sometimes it's not possible. Our infrastructure is not keeping pace with the growth. Now, we may say it's good, bad, but this is the reality. The growth is fantastic. It is changing the entire country, it's supporting the country.
Okay.
And when an industry grows at this speed, there are going to be problems. I'm sure the government is going to do everything possible to bring this into better shape. But I think
not if we don't ask the right questions. Not if we don't ask the right questions. We need to ask the right questions. Okay, no, hang on. Let me go back to Mr. Seth. I had to cut him off there. Mr. Seth, look, it all comes down to accountability. The Tata are very conscious, you say, of their image, but then we have seen aberrations. Mr. Rao has also pointed them out. I have the details here. What do we do in a situation like this? We don't ask questions. What do we do?
They're going to install equipment which will allow for fog landings. Number two, why are you blaming only Air India or the Tatas? All airlines have suffered. There have been diversions where an Emirates flight trying to land has had to go back because the Cat 3 equipment is not working. The problem, Rahul, is no one understands, and you more than anyone else will understand when I say what I'm about to say. Pilots have to be type rated for Cat 3 landings. And that is why, if you see pilots in countries where there is a lot of fog, whether you look at the Nordic countries, whether you look at some parts of America, they're Cat 3 trained. That Cat 3 training requires investment, which the Tatas have made. Which is why, if you go back to December 2024 and compare it to December 2023 and look at Delhi airport, you will see the number of diversions or the number of non-landings owing to fog were far less because the Tatas had put into place certain measures.
I can only ask the questions.
Here's the thing.
Hang on. I'm running out of time. We can only ask those questions. Viewers, that are apparent to us. Yes, we agree. There has to be an investigation. Mr. Rao is also in favor of that. Mr. Agarwal is in favor of that. Mr. Sudhakaran is in favor of that. Mr. Damania is in favor of that. Mr. Seth is in favor of that. So we want the truths to emerge. But then on the back of that, we also want accountability. We've had 2 crashes in the past, but not much has changed really. Not many people we found were made accountable, apart from the small fry. That has to change. Till that doesn't change, viewers, there is not going to be a change in culture. And that's the real problem. We can talk about infrastructure, we can talk about this, that, the other, but if the culture improves, ways will be found. I leave it to this.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
I can assure you that Indian aviation is probably one of the safest in the world. We have all the protocols in place. Our DGCA is very robust and effective. And to find, to pick holes into our ability to manage Indian aviation would be very unfair. And I always say this, and I repeat, that aviation is either 100% or zero. There's nothing like 99.9% in aviation. And therefore, in this case also, look at the aircraft. It arrived from Ahmedabad from Delhi. Obviously, it flew without any issue. And to take a 9.5-hour journey from Ahmedabad to London, obviously the pilots would have done all the pre-flight checks. And no pilot is foolish enough to take off if he is not satisfied. The captain per se in this aircraft would have also had thousands and thousands of hours of command. And a 787 and today's aircraft per se are very robust, fail-safe. They have many backup systems. And to really think what went wrong, I would be hazarding a guess, which would not be fair. But the point here is the aircraft did go on a takeoff roll. And between the time the wheels went up and the time it crashed, probably the time frame would have been almost only about 60 seconds or so, because you can't go to 800 feet and crash and it be within less. I mean, the time span is only 60 seconds. Now, he's already given a mayday call. Now, I don't know what exactly went wrong. It will be, again, hazarding a guess, which would be unfair. The only thing which can be ascertained is now, since the aircraft has fallen just a few hundred meters from the airport and in the BJ Medical Complex, therefore, to retrieve the black box and the other equipment would be also, quite simple. We would be able to ascertain only after that. Let me tell you one more thing. In today's aircraft, they are very sophisticated. All the parameters of an aircraft, right? Every single second the aircraft is in the air, all the parameters are recorded, not only by the aircraft, but they're also transmitted to a central command, real time, of the airline itself. So if there is, when an aircraft does a flight, there is a way to ascertain every single parameter during whatever the duration of the flight. So if anything would have gone wrong prior to this flight, or which may have escaped the attention of anybody, I'm sure this will be retrieved in no time once the equipment is found.
Now, Mr. Patel, just to go back in time, because this fleet, the Dreamliner, very, very safe. I think from what the experts are saying, and I only have them to sort of lean on for facts, they've said that this is the first time a Dreamliner has actually crashed anywhere in the world. Now, most of these Dreamliners were purchased, I suppose, about 10, 12, 15 years back by Air India when it was still government-owned. Obviously, there would have been a huge procedure that must have unfurled within government to select the plane. There would have been due diligence. There would have been all sorts of studies that would have been conducted.
Well, most certainly. I mean, first, the procedure itself in government is a very robust procedure. Goes through several layers. And ultimately, the basic selection of aircraft is done only on technical parameters. Because, the airline, requires a certain type of aircraft for certain, lengths of the flights. You want to go to the US, you want to go to the European countries, or to, 8-hour flights, 12-hour flights, and so on. And the kind of configuration you want. Let me also tell you that the Dreamliner, at the time it was ordered, was one of the most sophisticated, advanced fly-by-wire aircraft which was going to be produced. And it was ordered by probably most major airlines in the world, Air India also being one of the early ones. And to now even discuss it would be unfair, because after this particular aircraft itself, which has crashed, had been flying for almost 11 years. And if you see any major airline in the world, and if you go at any moment of time, there would be more than 1,000 787s up and flying.
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post, and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. We come to you tonight with news of another tragedy, a plane crash in Ahmedabad. An Air India passenger plane that took off for London and crashed within minutes. More than 200 people reported dead. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the victims. The pictures are shocking and heartbreaking. How did the plane crash right after takeoff? Was it engine failure? Was it human error? It's too early to say. Among the dead is a former Chief Minister of Gujarat. And so far, there is news of just one survivor. It's no less